So we really want to answer the question as to why all this government stimulus, and specifically the Australian government, why it will not be inflationary. Now, my argument goes something like this. Basically, what we had was we had a drop in activity brought on by COVID, obviously. And this is a forced drop. This is an activity that we forced upon ourselves. But it's not just activity from you and I, it's also activity from businesses. And so this is everyone in the economy, activity dropped. Also, that then led to a drop in liquidity. And this then meant that businesses that were relying upon liquidity to pay their bills can no longer do so, because activity has dried up, liquidity has dried up, and we get really bad results on this side, where no one has money and everyone wants for money. So my thesis actually rests upon the fact that because activity, liquidity has gone down, and liquidity obviously includes money, when the government gives out all these loans, which eventually will have to be paid back, when it gives out all these loans, all it's doing is replacing the lost liquidity. It's not going above and beyond the liquidity and above and beyond the money that exists in the economy. And so that is the sense in which we're not going to get inflation. And so let's get into it. And so I'll go into what I think is sort of a mental model for people that they have. Mental model, not mental people. Mental model that people have when they think about money and they think about the economy. And so the mental model might go something like this. We have all of the cash, or anything that's money, basically, in the economy. And we're considering Australia. And then let's say we have something like akin to a black box, and we have the economy. Now, of course, the economy includes real resources, and there's obviously a finite amount of them. Now, the idea is that these, roughly speaking, in this mental model that we're talking about, these are equal. So that an increase in cash, if it's not followed by an increase in real resources, we have an inequality and the model breaks down and the model no longer works. But how we reconcile this is we just add plus inflation. Now, we can imagine a scenario, once again going off the same mental model, where this goes up and we have no uptick in inflation. But if we take this away, money goes up, then the only thing that can go up to balance this out is more inflation. Now, the thing behind cash is that, because it's sort of assumed that sort of cash just sort of comes into a system and stays there. And generally speaking, that's correct. The money stock in Australia has just basically just gone up and up and up, whether that's M1 or M3. We don't use M2 for some reason. Whatever definition of money that we're using, that's going up. And so it makes sense. We're at this point here. I'll use a different color. We're at this point here. This is now COVID hits. And we're adding more money. And in fact, we're adding billions. And of course, it's pretty easy to reason that nothing in the economy has changed. We don't suddenly have a doubling of our resources. We're not suddenly twice as efficient. And so the only thing that can balance, this mental model out is inflation. But what this mental model doesn't take into account is something else. Let's say we have cash. We have our economy. Cash, economy, real resources, etc., and then plus inflation. Let's just put that as another box. What this doesn't take into account is the fact that when COVID hit, cash in the economy actually went down. So let's say this is quote unquote 2 units of cash. It actually went down to 1 unit equals, remember, the economy did not change. Plus inflation. Inflation didn't change. So these two are equal. Cash went down. What do you think has to go down as a result? The only thing then that can go down as a result, if inflation doesn't go down and probably has to become deflation, we know that hasn't happened, inflation hasn't gone down, so we can rule that out, is that the economy has to go down to match this money supply. But the point is that the government stimulus comes over here and builds this back up. That is the point of the government stimulus. These two are staying the same. We want this very, very rough equation to hold, and we bring it back up. Obviously, it's more complex than that. But in terms of the mental model we have, in terms of visualizing it, this I think is actually a very, very good approximation of what is going on. But it is prudent to ask, why did cash go down? Well, cash, you can just think of as liquidity. So if you imagine a bank's balance sheet, it has, as a liability, it has a deposit, and then it has reserves as to balance on this side, and this is a bank. Well, for you, the deposit is an asset. And then you have your own liabilities, net worth, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. This is you. The point is that this deposit is something you can draw upon at any moment. It's what, an on-demand deposit. You can spend money anytime you like, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 24/7. And the thing is, this is your liquidity. If you have bonds, stocks, you'll of course have your superannuation. All of these things, they are your assets, but these are not liquid. You can't spend your stocks, you can't spend your bonds and your super, obviously not. So the only thing you have, and this is then your liquidity. Now, the question is, why does liquidity matter, other than just being a really cool word? Well, the thing is, let's say you didn't have this deposit and you only had stocks, bonds, superannuation, and this is $1 million. To take the old cliche of something being $1 million. Well, the question then is, let's say a bill arrives. Let's say it's just the electricity bill. But let's say you actually got it late and it's actually due today. You have to pay it today. How are you going to do it? Are you going to sell your bonds, your stocks? Are you going to go into your superannuation? This has to be done today. Can you do any of that reliably? No. You need your deposit. You need your cash. Instead of a deposit here, we can just say cash. You need your cash. And what is true for this liquidity, what is true for you, is true for everyone in the economy. We all have bills that arrive. We all have things that we have to pay today. And you might argue that, okay, I can put it off to tomorrow. But that's the thing. That's all you've done. You put it off to tomorrow. Tomorrow will become today. And we can imagine yesterday you did the same thing. Well, you can't put it off indefinitely. At some point, you're going to have to pay this bill. And you're going to want cash to do it. There's no point in muddling around trying to sell stocks and bonds and all that. And eventually, if you're desperate enough, you might have to take a loss. And no one wants to do that. So your liquidity, that liquidity is important for everyone in the economy. If we imagine the economy, we have a bunch of people, and we can imagine the government up here. Money just goes between people. And you're getting money, and you're providing a service the other way. So this is cash, this is some sort of service. Most basic service is you just go to work. You provide a service to someone and you get money. And the business is doing the same thing. The business could be, for example, it could be getting money, and its service that it's providing to the government, because this is the government, its service is, let's say, building something, or it's just providing, let's say, software. It's providing some sort of software support to the government. But that's the thing. The entire economy is like this. So when COVID, we actually had a very big problem. Okay, the government is still paying out its bills, but the business here, business shuts down. It then stops paying you. So this shuts down, and you might be shopping somewhere, or you might be buying from someone, that shuts down. That person, whoever that person was, whether it's another business, another person, does not matter. And that's the sense in which liquidity is drying up in the economy. All of these arrows which are going to people, they're drying up. They're literally going down. One way to imagine this is to imagine your own balance sheet. Let's say this is you, and let's say you have cash, but that cash is a deposit at a bank. Now, one thing to consider is that cash trades as one-to-one with the deposit. And that seems to make sense. Why wouldn't it be? Cash and deposit. they're equal, 1-to-1, 1-to-1 ratio. So if you have $700 here, 700 deposit, you can withdraw 700 in cash. But that is something we can safely take for granted because the bank maintains that deposit, does operations on this side of the balance sheet and of course on this side to maintain that 1-to-1 ratio, and works with the banking sector and the central bank, the RBA, as a whole to maintain that. But other things can be liquid and can be used as cash. You have something like commercial paper. That commercial paper is backed by a company, but that commercial paper only has value as long as that company is around, as long as that company is still doing things. But we can imagine a big company, let's say like a big bank, and that bank has money coming in and has money going out. Of course, the difference is profits. But the thing is, if money stops coming in into the bank and it still has outgoings, this commercial paper that you're relying on, because this is anything, this is any business, you're a business, this commercial paper starts to lose value because money has gone down. But why has money gone down? COVID. So COVID has arrived. I'll just write COVID-19 again. It has arrived. What does that mean? People can no longer go out. So if we have a business here and we have money coming in, that money that was coming in no longer comes in because people are no longer going into businesses, they're no longer shopping as much. So overall demand has gone down, spending, they've gone down. So businesses still have outgoings. One of those outgoings, of course, is pay, so they stop paying that. That means as a worker, money that was coming in from a business goes down. You also have outgoings, and your outgoings might have been to that same business, and those go down. So the thing is, the level of activity eventually is just grinding down to a near halt, and with it, the money. So the money that used to exist, and we have money and we have activity, and money equals activity. This used to exist at some sort of, let's just call it a harmony, for lack of a better word. And activity generally is going up over time. But then COVID hits, this is when COVID hits, and they both go down. This line represents both. They both go down in tandem. Activity did not go down on its own, and money did not go down on its own. So these two went down. The thing with that is, remember, all the real resources and everything in the economy has stayed the same. And so we can pump money back into the system to bring activity back up. Because remember, you're no longer doing things because you're not getting any money. So we can give you a bit of money, and we can give, of course, the lion's share of money to businesses, and we can get a little bit of uptick in activity. And as I've said before, we can keep things on ice. So the idea is we keep businesses around so that when everyone is allowed to go out again and spend, activity can increase. Activity can increase because money will be there, and real resources, which haven't changed, they can start to be used again. And the thing is, the money will be there because the government has supplanted money. The government has given us money for activity to increase and then hit our real limit again. And so once again, like I was saying, so COVID hit, money supply went down, but the government comes in, yoink, and then builds it back up. And we can hold this sort of a holding pattern, if you will, for hopefully, let's say 6 months, maybe if we're lucky. We all go out again and these two will equal again. We can start spending our money, real resources haven't changed, all that good stuff, and we don't get an uptick in inflation because of all that money. Remember, liquidity dried up and money gets topped up because of the government stimulus, and then we start spending again, and then things just continue as they were before. So yeah, I hope that's helped. I'm going to continue making videos on this topic to really sort of hammer the point home, but also to sort of bring my understanding to the fore, to help me understand the reasons why this will not be inflationary. So yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe, rate and share, all the good stuff. Definitely helps my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.